Well, I came to Los Angeles to see one of the cheapest potential new cars on sale, the Slate truck, and I'm here with a very not cheap car. Welcome to Out Motorsports, the channel for cars as you are. My name is Jake, and this is the 2025 Maserati MC20 Cielo. This is their supercar, their more entry-level supercar, I guess, between this and the GT2 Stradale, and the Cielo means the roof comes off. So it's a little cold and windy up here. We're on Angeles Crest. So I'm going to be putting the roof back up, but let me walk you through a little bit of what this car is, and then we'll hit the crest and talk about how it drives. So first things first, this is merely a frunk. It is a very teeny tiny frunk because these are mid-engined. You've got the 3-liter twin-turbo Nettuno V6 that we've driven in the Gran Turismo before. Makes 621 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and 538 pound-feet of torque. Now in the other cars, that is paired to a ZF 8-speed automatic, but here we've got a Tremec 8-speed dual clutch, which is fabulous. More on that in a second. And then this has some options, as you might expect with a Maserati press car. These have a standard mechanical limited slip diff, but this has an electronically controlled limited slip diff. They all get adaptive suspension. This one has the giant carbon ceramic brakes. We've got all the carbon fiber in the world inside and out. And then come on, I'll show you the interior. So starting off, we have, again, more options. I mentioned all the carbon fiber, so you've got it on the center console and the steering wheel. These seats are an option as well. These are about $7,000. They are Seatbelt racing seats. They are fixed back, which you may or may not like. They do tilt. They're power tilt adjustable, but there is a standard seat that this car comes with that you can have if you don't want all of that. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty simple interior. If we hit the start switch, you've got a digital rearview mirror, a digital gauge cluster, and this reasonably sized touchscreen. And a lot of the controls are in the screen, which I don't necessarily love. You've got controls for the Cielo and the Spider, so the Spider is going to be your full convertible top, and then the Cielo is electrochromic glass that can become opaque if you don't want quite so much sun in the car. So the Spider part feels a little RF-y because you've got so much bulk behind you, but it's still plenty of open air. And then the Cielo bit we first saw on the Toyota Venza, which was really cool in a Toyota, and it's even cooler here in a Maserati. So fun tech there. This does have a Sonus Faber sound system, which is pretty good given the car has no real space for speakers. And you've got navigation, you've got wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. You've got your drive mode here and your shift selector, and then you've got power windows and your audio control. There's really not much else going on in here. Most of your controls are going to be through the screen, which I don't necessarily love, but it works. There's not a lot of space. You'd have a tiny little armrest storage compartment with some USB ports in here if you need to charge anything. There's also a wireless charger up in front of your shifter. And then there's one cup holder that seems maybe kind of useful. Although with the driving we're doing, I'm not about to try it. So with all that, this is a really cool car. It's cool for me. It's my first real supercar. So let's go hit the crest and talk about how it drives. So first things first, we got to talk about the sound. So I was in New York last week at the auto show. I happened to get about 20 minutes with the Maserati CEO, and we talked a lot about where they're at with their cars and the future of the brand. And one interesting thing that we talked about was the exhaust. And I asked if customers were kind of missing the V8 because they've been losing the V8 in their vehicles. And he said that most of the customers actually care more about the exhaust note than they do the number of cylinders, which I found very fascinating. Now, this being that Nettuno V6, I've driven it before, I've liked it before, but this all sounds really fantastic. Now, you're not going to get it as much with the windows up as you do with the windows down. However, you've got a nice big air intake right by your left ear on the driver's side, and it just giant turbo noises. You hear all the air being sucked in, and it's just, oh, it's fantastic. So do I miss the V8? Not necessarily. This gives the car its own character, which is really fun to me. And it makes plenty of power and torque. It is obviously more power than it is torque, which is really fun because you do have a little bit of need and desire to rev this thing, and then it's worth working it. Versus some turbo cars where they make all their power and torque right off the line, and it's kind of like, what's the point of really, winding this thing out? And then you get that nice turbo. Oh, so good, so good. Now, as far as how the drivetrain is otherwise, I really do like the Tremec DCT in this. It is, of course, a better partner to this engine in a car like this than a torque converter automatic would be, and I don't want a manual here. I'm too busy driving the car otherwise, so I'm really okay with what this is. Shifts very, very quickly. It listens to you. It does an okay job pretending to be a torque converter in traffic, but it's not tuned like the C8 Corvette's DCT is, which is also a Tremec unit. It's different. So you definitely feel its dual clutchiness, and that's okay, because that's the point of the car. Now, with the ride and everything in here, this does have adaptive suspension. This is one thing where I don't know if I totally love the different shock modes. So in the GT mode, I feel like it's a touch soft, and then in the sport mode that I'm in now, it's a touch stiff. I wish there was a mode that had the shocks truly halfway. So that would be a little bit nicer if I could have that. And then you can dial it up to Corsa if you want everything stiffer still. Let's see if the Subaru wants to pull over for us. I'd rather be a slime mold, is what their license plate frame says. Thank you, Subaru. And then we can just roll right on the power and catch the Miata that's right up here cruising. The sounds, I really like the sounds of this car, actually. I don't miss the V8. V8s are fun. This being a kind of raspy, high-revving V6 is good. And I think it's hard to make a V6 sound good. I love an inline six. V6s are a little different. So the fact that they've done it here, and it's all authentic noise, it's not piped in, I really enjoy that. Yes, and they're gonna do it too. How great. I love it when people respect faster drivers. All right, so with the chassis and the steering, as we get into some speed and some corners here, I mentioned that the chassis was, I wish the shocks were a little bit more of an in-between setting, but when you're driving harder like this, the car does come into its own a bit more, and really good body control. It's easy to make it turn. Part of that's being mid-engined, with where the weight is, but then also, how the chassis is set up and how the suspension is set up it's nice. And this is also on the new Bridgestone Potenza Sport tire, which I sampled at the Potenza Palooza a year or so ago, and that was also it was a good time, and this is now a nice time to see how this tire performs in the real world, which is to say pretty well. Plenty of grip, good communication, and that feeds into some steering that is actually really good as well. It's pretty quick off center, but it's very communicative. You feel everything, and it's very good steering. The steering is one of my highlights, I think, of the car. It can feel a touch darty, but again, it adds to the character of the whole thing. Where I think I don't like the car so much is with the brakes. They're probably my least favorite aspect. And it's not to say there's not stopping power, because there's plenty of stopping power with it being carbon ceramics, especially when they get warmed up. They have plenty of actual braking force. However, the pedal feel, especially when they're cold, is not good. It's a very kind of wooden pedal with not a lot of initial bite. It is nice because it's firm, and that means you can do little tiny muscle movements of your foot to really, really control the brakes with great precision. You just don't get a ton of confidence when you first apply them. Now, when they get warm, then you end up getting much better feel out of it. But it's still, that initial bite is just not quite what I would prefer. I would like a touch more. As this thing is, as a car to drive on back roads, to drive it hard, it's really fun. It's communicative, and it's playful. It's got kind of some good spirit to it, I think. My issue, and one of my other auto media friends said this, I had a couple of media friends really gush about these cars, and then I had one who was like, I don't know about it. And his thought was that this is not good enough at doing supercar things, and it's also not good enough at being a GT. And when you have a car like this that costs as much as it does, that you're going to have to drive long distances to get to the fun roads occasionally, you want it to be good as a GT. And it's a little too like raw for that, I think. I wish I had a little more, you know, creature comforts, and some of this is how it's optioned. Like, these seats are great for these back roads. They are not great for long highway drives. Obviously, they're fixed backs, they're not heated, they're, you know, whatever. But it's an interesting car, and I'm sure I'm going to get blasted from some of you for saying, like, oh, well, you know, you're not driving this the right way. It's not supposed to be that. But, you know, and that's what the Gran Turismo's for, which maybe, but it could just be a touch more GT for me, or it could be a touch more hardcore in certain ways, I guess. But it's, when you start pushing it, it feels good. It feels really good. And my complaints with the brakes go away as soon as they get hot. As soon as they get hot and they don't fade, the pedal feel is good here. So, really fun car, fun to get to experience it. You know, we don't get cars like this in the DC fleet, so whenever I get somewhere else where they're offered and they're available, I really appreciate getting the chance to try it out. So thank you so much to Maserati for extending the loan offer. I hope you all learned something or 3 things from from watching this video, other than just me laughing like a little kid because I get to drive a very fast Maserati supercar everywhere. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're out here in Southern California, we will be back here for our Rainbow Road Track Cross West in September. We'd love to have you come join us, come compete. It'll be a ton of fun. And otherwise, follow us at outmotorsports.com. We've got a bunch of events throughout the country, throughout the rest of the year, and we'd love to have you for any and all of those. So stay safe, be well. We'll see you again soon.